The question is about the parameters the 15th Finance Commission has considered when it comes to the horizontal devolution of tax proceeds. In the question itself, they have listed three, and they are asking you what else could be the other parameters. But before discussing about the answer, what exactly is the right answer, let me make it clear in what context the question might have been asked. Because most of you are asking the similar kind of questions in the comment sections when it comes to other videos. We have noticed is what should be the strategy for the next year? Because this year it seems to be pretty much tough. And when it comes to this question, most of you might have a doubt. The commission has submitted a report long back, and the recommendations apply from 21 to 26. The government accepted the good amount of recommendations. Then why in the mid of it? Right now 23, isn't it? So why is the government, why did UPSC happen to show an interest, and that too based on some facts related to 15th Finance Commission recommendations? I guess most of you might be aware of the fact there is a tussle or simply a issue going on between the union government and the state government. Let me make it what exactly is the reason, and then it would throw you an idea what should be your strategy and how should you happen to approach, especially coming to economic questions. They're not randomly picked up. You happen to notice they are not randomly picked up. Let's look at the very basic purpose and essence of this question, and then we'll just find out the answer for the question. And I guess you might all be aware of the fact, or a term called gross tax revenue. Gross tax revenue of the center or the union government. And this gross tax revenue of the union government do consist of all proceeds to the union government in the form of taxes. It could be direct taxes, it could be indirect taxes, and then the form of cess, surcharge, sub milake. And that's what we call gross tax revenue. And this gross tax revenue is further divided broadly into divisible pool, and non-divisible. So I would leave this as an assignment, or simply quickly pause the video and figure it out. Just post in the comment section what do constitute the divisible pool and what constitutes the non-divisible pool, which is not part of divisible. Okay, so the question is simple. Cess and surcharge, do they happen to be part of divisible pool or non-divisible pool? Pause the video and post in the comment section. So when it comes to the recommendations of 15th Finance Commission or recommendations of any finance commission, the union government is expected to share the proceeds only from the divisible pool. And this is as of now approximately 42%. So as per the 15th Finance Commission recommendations, the union government happens to make a commitment to share 42% of total net proceeds of their income, that is divisible pool of revenue. And this distribution is what we call vertical distribution, vertical devolution, or between the union and the state governments. Vertical devolution. So it has been out of every 100 bucks that constitute part of divisible pool, 42 rupees is what the union government obliged to share with the. That's what's the recommendation, and that's how the union government accepted. Now the question is, how is this so-called 42% is distributed among the state government? But before going ahead, let me make it the reason why the question has been asked. I think most of you might be aware of this so-called conflict between the union and the state governments. That is, though the gross tax revenue do constitute a very great proportion of money, but what really happens to be part of divisible pool is going to be relatively shrinking in the modern days. In spite of gross tax revenues increasing to the union government, but what happens to be part of divisible pool is shrinking, because the concern for most of these state governments is the center really mobilizing a good amount of money in the form of cess and surcharge. And as of now, you would be surprised to know they happen to be together constitute around 10 to 12% of the total gross tax revenue, a very good amount of money. And since this has been exempted, or this has been out of the divisible pool, and henceforth the net proceeds we are receiving out of your total gross tax revenue is been much less. And that's the conflict, and it is in this particular context you have been asked this question. Now coming back to figure out what exactly is the answer for the question. The question is all about what are the recommendations or what are the parameters considered by the Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission. So the 15th Finance Commission has simply taken some 6 parameters, 3 based on need-based parameters. Need-based parameters. One is on equity-based principle, equity-based. The third happens to be performance-based. Performance-based. So what are the parameters when it comes to need? Because in fact, when I say need, it does mean the states need good amount of money because of the following reasons. That is, let's take the case of a population. The states that has large population, they do incur great amount of revenue expenses, isn't it? Similarly, the area, states with large area do really require good amount of money, isn't it? And then forest and ecology. Forest and ecology. So each of these parameters also has been given a weightage, 15% for area and then 15% for population. So these states that have large area, great number of population, okay, large forest ecology cover do incur great amount of revenue expenses. And they need more money. They require more financial support. So you're not going to distribute all the money equal among the states based upon the need. Okay, let's assign a good amount of money based on these parameters with this weightage. And when it comes to equity based, the parameter happens to be income distance. I mean, those states that happen to be lagging behind with respect to other states. As simple as that, the one who happen to be more poor do require great support from the state. Same thing holds good. The states which are lagging behind with respect to other states do require a good amount of financial support. Henceforth, around a 45% weightage is given to this particular parameter based upon the equity principle. The last two is performance based. One is the demographic performance. The demographic performance. So when I say demographic performance, I mean those states that happen to bring in various initiatives to bring in population stability in population growth. The other is tax efforts, various efforts to mobilize good amount of tax revenue and at the same time contain your unnecessary expense. So they have been given a weightage of 12.5 and 2.5% each. And based on these parameters, the horizontal devaluation is expected to take place. Okay, and 3 has been already part of your question. That's a population, area, income distance, and what else could be part of it. So demographic performance, forest and ecology, and tax and fiscal efforts. So by that logic, option B happens to be the most appropriate. But now the question is, it's not the question of fact or okay or a logic. The very basic essence of this question is you have this particular issue that's going on between union states with respect to the total tax proceeds and the total revenue shared between the union states. Most of you might be aware of the fact, isn't it? Since the over dependence of union government on cess and surcharge or the contribution of cess and surcharge to the total gross revenue is increasing and they doesn't constitute the part of divisible pool of revenue, the states now started feeling that though 42% is being shared, but if you look at the overall gross revenue, it doesn't exceed not more than 34-35%. Okay, and that's the issue. And in this context, you have this particular. So whenever you just simply come across an issue, so you need to have a comprehensive understanding of everything that particular issue happens to deal with. And that is what is expected. Got it? Thank you.